All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim saying Shalom, everyone, and welcome to all my new subscribers and to all my subscribers that's been with me for a while. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and select all so you'll be notified every time I upload a new presentation. And I want to thank you all for commenting on the videos and engaging and sharing, because all that helps with getting the word out. And this, hey man, we on fire right now. To all of you, or to many of you who may not be that familiar with me, I am Dr. YehoshuaBenEphraim, the founder, leader, and teacher of the E1B1A that by grace and mercy of the Most High brought that to the children of Israel. I discovered that was the holy haplotype, what I dubbed it as the children of Israel, right? And so, I've been, actually, I think it was in, 2000, and I've been doing this since 2015. That's when the Most High raised me up. And I got over 200 and some odd videos. I don't know, but I mean, just take your time and go through all of them. It's plenty, it's free knowledge. Take full use of it. But I want to thank you all for, hitting me up and being engaged. I'm working on my book. The book should be out, hopefully by the end of the year, at the latest, the first of next year, and definitely be looking out for that because I'm going to take it to another level, right? And for those who may not know, also, a lot of other so-called Hebrew Israelites have kind of taken bits and pieces from my teachings and not giving me credit. That's okay. All praise due to the Most High. He's in charge of everything. You know what I'm saying? So, but don't be fooled. And I don't care what you hear. No one was talking about putting together the holy haplotype of the children of Israel before the Most High raised me up. All right. So this lesson is kind of taking it back to where it all started with the DNA, right? I kind of put out things that interest me, that and interest you as well, and keep it exciting. I mix it up. I got black history stuff in there, a lot of stuff about our people. I cover a lot of stories that is not really popular, right? I cover them and stuff like that. And so, I throw the DNA in there, documentaries, so, keep it exciting, so I want to thank you all for subscribing and, engaging in the videos, and please continue to do that. And I'm going to continue to bring you all the, the knowledge and the wisdom, and at the same time keep it interesting and entertaining. All right, so on that note, let's go and get to the lesson. And until next time, it's Dr. Ephraim signing off, saying Shalom, elect. All right, well, I hope everyone is in good spirits. You're having a great day so far. What I'd like to do is kind of, gradually getting back into the swing of things. I want to kind of take it back to where it all began for me in this channel with the whole DNA thing and uncovering the E1B1A and all this kind of stuff. I think that's important because I kind of went through a lot of my old videos, teaching videos, and I was like in awe of all just the videos. Some even hours of information that I put out. I'm like, wow. Truly amazed. Like, wow, I did all that. Like, wow. But anyway, with that said, what I'd like to do is kind of bring it back, to where it all started for this channel, which is DNA. All right. And you guys know how I do. Let me start off by saying you can save the detractors can save your comments and your questions. I'm not a genetic physicist. I'm not a nuclear biologist, anything along those lines. Okay. What I am is an intelligent brother, who is a servant of the Most High God. I will say that. But I'm sharing this information as I've uncovered it with you in terms of my understanding, my knowledge base, for me to you, right? By grace and mercy of the Most High, it was revealed to me that the E1B1A was the holy haplotype of the children of Israel. Okay, there are many people who disagree with that. That's fine. There are many people who are on the fence with it. That's fine. It was never my intention or my intent to try to prove anything to anyone, because those who have ears will hear, right? And they will listen, they will understand, they will take to it as a fish to water, as I did. Okay. There's there's a saying that goes, let me bring that up real quick. It says, for those who believe, no proof is necessary. And for those who don't believe, no proof is possible. And there it is there in a nutshell. Okay, so it was never my intent. That's why I've never debated with anyone. I've never taken any type of, debate fee, or, none of that stuff, street theater. I'm not into any of that. You can keep your money, you can keep your this and that. I was never out to prove anything to anyone. Okay, you believe it or you don't. Right, and that's why the Bible tells us that, although Israelites are as the sand of the sea, only a remnant will be saved. Think about that. Israelites are as the sand of the sea, man. So that's a metaphor for just how many Israelites the Most High sees on this earth, especially since we were scattered and everything like that. But only a remnant, a small portion of that, will be saved. So, that's my position. I've never wanted to, like I said, jump up down. Oh, please believe me, please, please listen. My job and my mission was to present the information. That's what I've done. DNA is very powerful. It's very powerful, and it's funny how, and I'm gonna say mostly black men because that's where most of the detractors come from. DNA is fine when they're getting out of not having to pay child support, or when DNA is proving that they're not the father, or when DNA exonerates them of a crime. However, it's a big problem when DNA proves who you are and where you come from. That's just very interesting to me, how that is. Then all of a sudden it's DNA, you can't trust it, it's something else. But it's fine and it's trustworthy when it's getting your butt out of jail, or when it's saying that you don't have to pay child support. Oh yeah, DNA is fine then, right? But DNA is much more than that, right? And the title of this video says it all. The power of DNA and the irrefutable proof it provides. And that's regarding whatever. I mean, you could have lived a lie your whole life. You could have been told something your whole life, and a DNA test can just uproot all of that. Okay? Here's another saying that I've used before. And it says, DNA cannot lie. Dishonorable men lie on DNA to keep the ignorant confused. Okay? And that might sound a little harsh to some, but I mean, let's look at it for what it is. When you're ignorant to something, and I've been ignorant to many things, but you can cure that though. Reading, researching, right? Doing the research. I just got, I touched on that. Real research. I'm not talking just listening to a blog or listening to someone giving their opinion and then boom, you've done your research. No. In academia, we have something we have to cite our sources. It's called APA. What are your sources for your information? What are your sources for your belief? You can believe whatever you want, right? But that doesn't make it true. Okay? You can say whatever you want. That doesn't make it true. Coming from an adjunct professor who has a stellar career in academia, you have to present your resources in terms of if you have to, and the reason for that is that because you want your listeners, your readers to form an intelligent, make an intelligent decision, right? Based on information coming from very real sources and relevant sources, right? Instead of just pulling stuff out of your behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a brief little summary on DNA and the power of it, and after that I'm going to include a presentation I did on my personal breakdown of my DNA haplogroup that I took with 23andMe before they changed the format, because I knew they were going to do it. I don't want to teach it right now because I'm going to include it. You can listen to the whole thing. And I break it down. I mean, it literally shows my DNA coming up out of the Middle East. All that's done away with. So I'm going to do that, and let's kind of take it back to where it all began for us with the DNA, the power of it, and the irrefutable proof it provides. Let's get it. All right. Now, before I even get into it, we've thrown around those three letters ad nauseum over the years. DNA. Well, what exactly does the letters DNA stand for? Well, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and that's a tongue twister. I bet you couldn't say it fast 3 times, but a DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, it is the genetic code that makes each person unique. It's just like our fingerprints, right? Like no two people have the exact fingerprints. Listen, I have to say this real quick. When you look at the intricacies of how the human body is made up, I mean, even genetically, I mean, that had to have come from someone much, much, much higher than us. Like, seriously, think about it. No two people's fingerprints are alike, right? And let's look at it from another perspective. The 12 tribes of Israel. Well, the Most High wanted the 12 tribes to remain among each other, meaning he wanted them to procreate, make children. Da, 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 da. Well, how could they do that if their DNA was the same? And that's why there's slight changes in each of the 12 tribes. It starts out as E1B1A, which came from Jacob, but from each of his sons basically has a variation of the E1B1A. Why? So that it can allow us to procreate and keep it within the 12 tribes. And it's like just that simple thought, right? It's not even, I can't even say simple thought. Just that thought alone, like, what man could have that kind of gift of insight and foresight to think like that? And not only that, but to make man that way. Like, we all come, like 12 brothers came from one man. Ordinarily, if 12 brothers came from one man, they would all have the same exact Y DNA haplotype of that man. But this is how you know something much higher is involved with the 12 tribes of Israel and the 12 sons of Israel, right? Because they're brothers, they all have the same father, but they have different variations in their DNA, and that allows so there won't be any type of, genetic disorders in the children of Israel. Think about it, man. That is just so fascinating to me. Only someone with omnipotent power can think of something like that. I mean, man cannot do that. Man does not have the power to remotely do anything like that, right? For all of our wisdom and knowledge, we still can't even recreate the pyramids, which I think the pyramids were built by extraterrestrials. But that's another story. When I say extraterrestrials, angels are considered extraterrestrials, just to kind of throw that out there. But anyway, back on point. So DNA is very strong, very powerful. So what exactly is DNA? Okay, and just let me cite the source for this information. It's coming from Medical News Today. Okay, and they're the reference and the source for this information I'm relaying to you all. It says, in short, DNA is a long molecule that contains each person's unique genetic code. It holds the instructions for building the proteins essential for the body's function. DNA instructions pass from parent to child, with roughly half of a child's DNA originating from the father and half from the mother. Now, I won't get into all the scientific parts of DNA and the molecular breakdown and all that, but I'm just going to give you a basic overview, right? So we can get on to my personal breakdown of my DNA haplogroup, E1B1A 7A or EP252. How does DNA work? It said most DNA lives in the nuclei of cells, and some exist in the mitochondria, which is the women, which are the powerhouses of the cells. Because humans have so much DNA and the nuclei are so small, DNA needs to be packaged incredibly neatly. Strands of DNA loop, coil, and wrap around the proteins called histones. In this coiled state, it is DNA chromatin. And chromatin condenses further through a supercoiling process and packages into structures called chromosomes. These chromosomes form the familiar X shape. Each chromosome contains one DNA molecule. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, or 46 chromosomes in total. Other species have different numbers. For example, fruit flies have 8 chromosomes, while pigeons have 80 chromosomes. All right. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get into the all the real intricate parts of DNA. Now, who was the first to kind of discover this whole DNA thing? Whatever. Okay, the discovery of DNA is credited to a Swiss scientist named Friedrich Miescher, who first isolated DNA from human pus cells in the late 1860s. Now, I never knew that. I never knew where the knowledge came from, but he's credited with, quote unquote, I won't say discovering, but more like uncovering DNA, because DNA belongs to the Most High. DNA belongs to the creator of man. And since man did not create man, nothing in us or about us can be credited to a man, period, point blank. Everything about us, when the Most High blew his breath into Adam and Adam became a living soul, he took ownership of everything inside that man, our DNA included. Okay, real talk. All right, so in summary, DNA is a molecule found in most cells holding each other's unique genetic code. It is responsible for coding proteins which are essential to the growth and development of cells. Chromosomes are tightly coiled strands of DNA. Genes are sections of DNA that code individual proteins. DNA also carries important genetic information necessary for the survival and function of all life forms on Earth. Put another way, DNA is the master plan for life on Earth and gives all living organisms their unique genetic code. When something in this plan malfunctions, disease and health problems can occur. And I'm going to stop right there in terms of just giving you a nice overview of what DNA is, right? And like I said, a lot of things that happen biblically, the separating of Esau and Jacob in Rebekah's womb. When scripture tells us that there are two nations in her womb, that was basically telling us he made them two haplotypes, and only he could do that. Only the Most High can do something like that, right? Because normally two babies born having the same father would ordinarily have the same exact haplotype. But think about that. If Jacob's seeds had the same seeds of Esau, or they had the same haplotype of Esau, how would we know who's the seeds of Jacob and who's the seeds of Esau? Like, we wouldn't. That's the point. So the Most High, in his infinite wisdom, he separated the Y DNA haplotype or haplogroups in Rebekah's womb of the two brothers. Yes, they're brothers. Yes, they have the same father, but they both have two separate nations, represent two separate nations of people and two different DNAs. That's why you have a bunch of white people having the E1B1B, which is Edom, and of course the E1B1A falls over on Jacob's side. So anyway, I'm not going to get into that too much. There's a lot of videos on that. Check it out. So let me go ahead and include the presentation I did on my breakdown of my haplogroup E1B1A7A before the format changed, and we'll go from there. So until next time, I hope everyone has a great and productive day and enjoy the presentation. And this is Dr. Ephraim signing off, saying Hayah by Yeshim, Yeshua HaMashiach, Baruch Atah Adonai, Shalom Elek. And I'm going to go over my my data before the format was changed. Wow. And I saw this coming. I really did. By God's grace and mercy, January 3rd, 2015, when I released that video, when it blew up like it did, I knew it was coming. I knew that that this information was going to start. I knew that the trickery, if you will, was going to start, and it didn't take long before it started. I mean, they changed the format to where, I went through 23andMe, and it's totally different now. I mean, like, they really trying to this information, and when I break down my data of what it was when I went through it, you guys will see, and I told everyone back then, I know it was new but I thank the Most High for the gift of foresight, because I saw it coming. I said, they're not going to just, let that go like that. There was no reason for them to change the format. And for those out there who may be, confused, changing the format doesn't mean changing your DNA. Okay, it's just when I say change the format, meaning that when you look at it visually, it's not readily E1B1A. And we're going to get into that. I'm going to get into that. For example, I'm E1B1A7A, right? When I took my test, it said that. Now, the E1B1A7A, now it says EP252, I believe. There was no reason to change that. Absolutely not, other than to confuse or dissuade people from, with the whole E1B1A movement. If E1B1A wasn't true or that big of a deal, why would they go through those links to change the formats and take out the global populations, clearly, saying that, the populations that was compared to my DNA was in the Middle East, quote unquote, in Palestine. I'm going to get into all of that. Things are so different, but I told everyone this. I have a video I did about 5 years ago. It's called Bantus or Negroes, and if Ramses was E1B1A, Ramses III was E1B1A, he was a Hebrew Israelite. That video is pretty comprehensive, and I definitely recommend you guys going to that after you listen to this one. When I go over my personal DNA data, definitely go and check that video out, because I saw it then 5 years ago, right? And so, yeah, a lot to unpack, but let's get it. Starting off with my DNA data. All right, as you all can see, 6 years ago, back when I first took my DNA test, remember, I took a couple of them for continuity's sake, right? I did one with I believe it was Family Tree or Ancestry.com, and then I did one with DNA Tribes, was really good. Then I did one with 23andMe. Okay, and what you're looking at, this is a screenshot of what my paternal line looked like 6 years ago with 23andMe, and it clearly says E1B1A 7A. Okay, is a subgroup of E1B1A. Now remember, I was at an advantage, because I guess when they was putting this information out, they had no idea that someone would connect the dots and connect E1B1A to the lost children of Israel, right? So I was at an advantage. I had a huge advantage. So we're going to go over every single thing that I had, because I took screenshots of everything, so that I have my proof. And the key, one of the things to keep in mind is that when they say that E1B1A is common among Bantu speakers and African Americans, or Negroes. Okay, remember, Bantus are the Negroes that the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary was talking about when it said Ham was the progenitor of the dark races, the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, Africans, and Canaanites, but not the Negroes. And I discovered and uncovered that the Negroes were the Bantus. Did a video on that, right? And I said in the last slide, definitely check that out, once this is over. But I gotta get into this, because I was really, when I logged in and saw what was going on now, it semi angered me, but I kind of knew they were going to do this, right? But that's okay, because I have the proof. I have my screenshots of what it was before it was changed. So there you go. Okay. So it says E1B1A 7A, subgroup of E1B1A. All right. Region Africa, obviously, and remember, and see that whole Bantu expansion. For those who aren't familiar with it, that whole Bantu expansion they continuously talk about, that happened about 4,000 years ago. It was basically a Hebrew expansion. That's what it was. Okay, because remember, whatever African nation they attribute your DNA to, whether it's Yoruba or Ghana or Cameroon, wherever. Remember, as a Bantu, that's secondary to you as a Hebrew Israelite, because our DNA is much older than those Hamitic races that we encountered once we got to these nations of Hamitic Africans. Okay, our DNA is a lot older than 4,000 years. But see, if you notice, that's where they pick up the quote unquote Bantu expansion from about 4,000 years ago. I don't know why they keep trying to make us feel and seem like we don't have a very, very long and rich history well before 400 years in this country, and definitely before 4,000 years, when the Bantus / Hebrews expanded all over all over Africa, all over North, South America, you name it, with the transatlantic slave trade. So keep that in mind, okay? But here it is. This is what my paternal line looked like when I first took my test 6 years ago. And they said it, the E1B1A branch of haplogroup E predominates in Africa, South, and the Sahara, where it spread about, 4,000 years ago, in conjunction with the expansion of Bantu-speaking people out of Western Africa. And see that, and even then, that was disinformation, because we were not out of Western Africa. We migrated. The Bantus migrated to Western Africa. That's not where we came from. All right, we're moving right along. Okay, this global similarity map was included when I took my DNA tests with them 6 years ago. Okay, and why this is important and significant is because it tells you what population my DNA was connected to. And clearly it says reference population for me was quote unquote Middle Eastern. Now, not to go into a tangent on that, but we know that Middle East is a European construct. Okay, I dealt with that as well in one of my videos. Trust, if you're not really familiar with a lot of my teaching videos, I highly recommend you guys kind of double back and go back to some of the videos and presentations I've done on this stuff, because it'll make even more sense. So let's just kind of scroll in the spirit of saving time. And this is what they said. Second paragraph. I don't know if you guys can read it, but I'll read it for you. It says, we consider the Near East to be bordered by the Mediterranean and Black Seas to the west, the Caucasus Mountains to the northeast, the Arabian Peninsula to the south, and the Zagros Mountains to the east. The 23andMe database includes Near Easterners from the Palestinian, Druze, Bulgarian populations living in Israel. One more time, for the populations living in Israel, and that's where my DNA connected the original most portion population where they lived were from. But I don't. If this global similarity map is still a part of their deal, please someone let me know and what it says, especially for someone that has my DNA, the E1B1A7A, or now the EP252. Let me know if this global similarity map is still around, because I don't think it is. But it's frustrating, because they by listening to this, it's like still they're trying to get to say, well, our history is more than 400 years, started more than 400 years ago, and it definitely started more than 4,000 years ago. Yeah, we migrated and were sold into slavery and all these different things, but where were we before that? See, that's what they're not dealing with, and that's the whole point and my whole problem with this disinformation and giving some information and half information. Where were we? Where were the Bantus before this so-called Bantu expansion? See, they're not dealing with that. They don't want to answer that. That's why I've been answering it. And that whole Bantu expansion was a Hebrew expansion. We didn't originate in West Africa. We originated in Israel, Palestine. That's where we came from, my people. That's where the Negroes are from. We are not Hamitic. We are a Shemitic people by way of Peleg, but they keep putting up this disinformation and you trying to make it seem and sound like our history started 4,000 years ago with this Bantu expansion, or even 400 years ago with slavery in America. Knock it off and cut it out. Like we are not that people. We are not those people. So anyway, moving right along. And here's the migration chart that was included with the DNA test I took 6 years ago. I doubt very seriously that they include this in the test taken today. If all you brothers out there who's got the E1B1A7A or the EP252, listen closely, because this applies to you. Okay. These are our people, man. I don't want to kind of rehash everything, but just kind of like a refresh. The migration of the E1B1A7A, which came from the tribe of Ephraim, they ended up in northern Africa, enslaved by Muslims, Arab Muslims or whatever, and they was trying to force them to convert to Islam, and the E1B17A declined, and they ended up shooting over to Yoruba, where the Hamitic Yorubans that were there already thought that they were a very strange people, and they called them Imo Yokaim, or strange people, and they asked them who they were, and they told them, we are the sons of Ephraim, or the children of Ephraim. So that's our story in a nutshell. That's you know, I break that down in my personal journey video. You guys can go check that out as well. I break that story down. So someone said on the in the community or whatever that all of Yoruba was E1B1A, and that's just not true. Not true at all. We're admixed in with Hamitic Yorubans. There's some Hamitic Yorubans were there when we got there. So anyway, this chart, this migration chart, as you can see, you know, from each position, you know, where we were and then where we started moving or migrating, rather, it was, you know, on our own or being sold or carried out, whatever. You see the movement. So, and the crazy thing about this is that they're showing me all this stuff, but yet looking at my ancestral breakdown, everything, they're still trying to keep everything sub-Saharan Africa. Well, wait a minute. So where is this coming from? So where is this migrational chart coming from? If I'm so-called sub-Saharan and West Africa and Bantu and all this kind of stuff, so where are you guys getting this from, right? But at the time, I wasn't, you know, I didn't really understand. You know, of course, you know, retrospect and hindsight being 2020, I totally get it now. You know, it's because they were hiding in plain sight, hiding our history or my history in plain sight. You know, clearly the original most part of my DNA started in Israel, period. But yet they're trying to keep me visually to, you know, sub-Saharan, Bantu speaking Africa, African American. They're just trying to keep me there and keep us there. But that's not the case. But if by chance this migration chart is still around, please somebody let me know. But I screenshotted mine, so you know I have my proof, man. So on to the next slide. And here's my my maternal haplogroup for my mom, my mitochondrial. She's L3E2A1B. Now the interesting part about that is that L3E is the equivalent of E1B1A7A, but strangely, as you can see, here's the maternal haplogroup, the migration for haplogroup L3E, which was my mom. This is origin. Haplogroup L3E originated about 45,000 years ago in Central or Northeastern Africa. Now frame that. Why that one line is so important is that for some reason they have no problem telling us that the female version of E1B1A started over 45,000 years ago in Northeast Africa, which for you who don't, many of you who don't know or are familiar, Northeast Israel is in Northeast Africa, and I did a video on that, okay, because Israel sits on the tectonic plate. Don't believe the lies about no Asia and Eurasia. That's a bunch of madness. Israel is in Northeast Africa, and this L3E migration that they're literally giving us the female version of E1B1A that started in Israel. It originated. They even went as far as to say that it originated about 45,000 years ago. See, they didn't say that about the E1B1A. They kept the E1B1A limited to 4,000 years ago with the Bantu expansion. But with the female version of us, they're telling the truth. See, they didn't even tell us, they didn't even say that E1B1A started in Northeast Africa like they did the L3E. And guess what? The L3E is the female version of E1B1A, my people. See, but they didn't expect us to get all that. Right? Because back then, 6 years ago, again, they were hiding in plain sight. So they're giving us this information. They didn't think we would know what to do with it, or know the significance of it. But that's crazy. And see, look, go down a little bit. It says example populations, Bantu speakers, African Americans. So that verifies what I just said. L3E, the mitochondrial is the mitochondrial version of E1B1A. And I'm sorry, excuse me. But they didn't give us all that for the male, for the paternal line. But they're telling the truth and shaming the devil here with the L3E. They're telling you L3E started 45,000 years ago in Northeast Africa or Israel, basically. And then, to drive it home, started to spread south with a migration of Bantu-speaking people over the past 4,000 years. Right. This is a trip. So that's important. All right. In the spirit of saving time, I'm trying to just kind of refresh some of these things I've already went over. But on to the next slide. So fast forward 6 years, and now my E1B1A 7A is EP252. And again, my people, there was no reason for them to change the visual of my Y DNA haplotype. Absolutely none. I believe this is what they've done is a direct response to the whole comprehensive E1B1A video and movement. And now they're trying to say that E1B1A is what does that say? That we share an ancient paternal lineage with Pharaoh Ramses III. I mean, just disinformation. That's just not true. And when you guys go check out that Bantu video I did, but I'll tell you basically what I said there. If Pharaoh Ramses III was actually E1B1A7A, either he was an actual Hebrew Israelite genetically and living as an Egyptian, or either by blood or by, because remember, when Moses was found, he was living as an Egyptian, all right, but he was a Hebrew Israelite. But I think they're doing that to kind of throw it off, okay, because all those Egyptologists, they love that. Oh yeah, this shows, E1B1A, yeah, we're Egyptian. No, we're not Egyptian. Genesis 10:6 tells us the sons of Ham, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. Okay, Ham, Hamitic, and their bloodline is E1B1B. And for those who don't know, the original Egyptians came up out of Mitzrayim. Okay, the original Egyptians are a black Hamitic people. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born about probably about 96 years before the flood, yada yada yada. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, okay, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Okay, my people, we are not Egyptians. Yes, we were captured. We were in the land of Egypt for 430 years before Moses was brought forth to lead us out and all that, but we are not Egyptians. Yes, we're connected to Egypt. Yes, no doubt about that. But our DNA tells us who we are. The Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary threw us a caveat and said not the Negroes, and I had to discover that the Negroes were the Bantus. Okay, the Negroes were the E1B1A. Here's the Hamitic data, DNA data for the children of Ham, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. Okay, and I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me come and make it a little bigger. Let's see here. E1B1B. All right, virtually no E1B1A for the bloodline of Ham. Okay, the DNA does not lie. Men lie, but DNA cannot lie. Now, DNA may give you a result that you don't want or want to accept, But your DNA is going to reveal the truth, whether you like it or not. And rather whoever likes it or not, black people, we are not Egyptians. We are not from the bloodline of Ham. That is genetically false, and I've proven that time and time again. And I see that with the disinformation, they're hanging on to the, like they're trying to change the narrative, say, oh, you guys are connected to Ramses, trying to throw it off like, oh, so black people think, oh, so we must be Egyptians. No, we must not be. We're not Egyptians. Okay. And if Ramses was E1B1A, he was a Hebrew Israelite fronting, or his mother had an affair and his daddy didn't know. One of the two. One of the two. All right? Because either he was a Hebrew Israelite and raised as an Egyptian, or his Egyptian mother was getting it in on the low with a Hebrew Israelite man, and his DNA outs him as a Hebrew Israelite. But I believe they have that connected to that because they want black people to think that they're Egyptian, and that takes us away from being Hebrew Israelites, man. Egyptians enslaved us. Okay, the Muslims enslaved us. So-called white Christians enslaved us. Like, I mean, we can go on and on through all the captivities of the children of Israel, right? So, I think it's a ploy to throw us off. We know we're haplogroup E, right? You can see the tree, haplogroup E. There's several people that come up under the tents of Shem, but we are of the chosen seed. Okay, E1B1A is God's chosen nation. He said he was going to choose us above all nations, right? So yes, there are several dark people that fall under haplogroup E. However, there's only one people that's the children of the promise, or a children that has a covenant with the Most High God of Israel, right? And of course, this is the classic Hebrew Israelite DNA meme I did many years ago. That's floating out all over the internet, right? This haplogroup E1B1A. Because remember when if you guys haven't seen the comprehensive video, I said that they were trying to say the E1B1A was in Israel, but it was small amounts. They were trying to downplay it when in actuality it was the other way around. E1B1A is actually the founding lineage for ancient Israelite nation. Why they were trying to downplay and try to play us, right? I turned that around. So anyway, but that's what it is, people. I wanted to kind of share that. Like I said, I have several videos on this stuff, but I wanted to kind of address that with screenshots of what my DNA looked like before the format was changed. And clearly, my DNA points to it being the original most part being Israel, or quote unquote Middle Eastern. All right, so until the next presentation, I hope you guys got something from it. This is Dr. Ephraim saying, Ahaya by Yeshim Yeshua HaMashiach Baruch Atah Adonai. Shalom, elect.